Lauren Boebert being a traditional family values person. Oh my God, I saw this, dude. Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry that I'm gonna laugh at this, but I am. Lauren Boebert, who opposes reproductive rights and sex education, said her 17-year-old son is going to make her a 36-year-old grandmother next month. When asked how old her son's girlfriend is, she would only say she's over the age of 14. Okay, so what that means is she's 14 and a half. That's what that means. That's what that means. Nobody says it. What does that even mean? She's over the age of 4. So she's 14 and a half. Her son fucked a 14-and-a-half-year-old, and they're gonna produce a teenage pregnancy, which is not good. I actually remember recently, Lauren Boebert was like bragging about rural teenage pregnancy rates. She was like, well, when you think about it, the reason we have so high rates of teenage pregnancy in the countryside is because in cities they have access to abortion. So actually our high teenage pregnancy rates is a point of pride. It was so ridiculous. And this comes like literally 5 days after she was at CPAC condemning comprehensive sex education. Like I heard like one thing she said was like they're teaching how to have pleasurable sex. I don't think necessarily schools need to teach how to have pleasurable sex, but the idea about teaching how to have sex, that's perfectly fine in school for like 15, 16. Like this is when kids are boinking. And obviously her kid's a perfect example of this. Maybe if her kid had comprehensive sex education, he would have used a fucking rubber and she wouldn't be a grandmother at the age of 36. Just a thought. Okay, just a thought. Look, my father is not a very Christian man, okay? He's not a very Christian man. My father has been engaged in some like forms of like, you know, weird crime stuff. And he is, you know, a very vulgar man. He talks about, I love hookers and, you know, that's just the type of man he is. Even him with his most like I'm a party guy, whatever type attitude. Even he made sure to sit down with me and be like, use a rubber, okay? Use a rubber. And I remember my grandmother even like got angry about this, but I completely understand why he did it. Because once I started having sex, I mean, I was a young teenager, you know how they do, you know, sometimes you let your smaller head overthink your big head. And it was smart for him to like tell me how to use that. And maybe if she would have done that with her kid, or maybe if the educational system would have taught, you know, him how to use a rubber, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Obviously, I don't know the specifics of the situation. But just saying, it's pretty coincidental. 5 days after she condemns comprehensive sex education, now there's a teenage pregnancy in the family. Just saying. Below age 14, it would classify as statutory rape. So she is saying, no, he didn't commit a crime. Maybe, yeah, that could be it. Wait, if a 17-year-old has sex with a 13-year-old, then it's a crime? Is there like actual, like, I don't actually... Okay, I've never had to think about this, but like, what is the age limit? Because a 17-year-old doing anything with like a 12-year-old feels awful. It just feels awful because the age gap between, like, the age gap between a 30-year-old and 35-year-old, not that big, not that gigantic. The age difference between a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old, massive, just in developmental and like how mature you are and like the type of stuff you're probably ready for. My goodness. I haven't really ever thought about what the specific thing is. And you know what? I do not want to look it up on my computer. I do not want to look it up on my computer, so I'm not going to look it up on my computer. If you guys are too curious that you can't avoid looking it up on your computer, you're gonna have to do that on your own time, because I'm not doing it. I am not doing it. I think Maryland has a 2-year scale. That seems fair. 2 to 3 years seems like a fair scale. I've always liked Maryland's laws around this, because I remember I turned 18 and my girlfriend at the time was 2 months younger than me. And so I was like, wait, I'm 18, she's 17. And I like got scared for a second. Like, am I a bad person? I remember I was like, wait, am I a pedophile because I'm 18 and she's 17? I was like freaking out. Like, am I gonna have to break up with her? And like, I was like, oh, okay. And I Googled it and I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. I mean, you know what? I think most people don't want to be pedophiles, so it was a good concern to have. Dylan is a paid Maryland shill. I wish I got paid. I will shill for Maryland for no money. I'm not a paid Maryland shill. I'm a Maryland pan-nationalist, okay? I'm a Maryland pan-nationalist. I believe we should annex Delaware, and we should also, honestly, if DC doesn't become a state, Maryland should also annex DC. But it should become a state, if possible. Dylan was a pedophile. Shut up. That's the one list you are not on yet. Shut up. 17, I was MILF hunting, had to go to school. That's not good. That's not. Oh, dude, I don't want to talk about this one story that got me mauling recently. Oh my God. There was this one story that got me mauling on Twitter about people being like, oh, this 30-year-old woman fucked this 14-year-old kid. What a lucky guy. Like, I was so angry. I wanted to throw every single person in that Twitter thread in prison, man. You know what? I will actually, you know what? Let's divert. I don't know if I can make a segment out of this, but we're going to divert to make a segment out of this because it pissed me off so much. I want to throw so many people in prison. I want to bring back the Soviet-style gulag, even though it was horrifically non-humanitarian. It's terrible stuff. I want to bring it back just for the people who have reacted to the story. So to be clear, let me tell you the story, what happened with this 31-year-old Connecticut lady. What she did is she was a teacher at the school, and she ended up engaging in inappropriate texting with a 14-year-old, also known as a child. She starts texting him, starts sexting him, and then eventually, after months of what was basically grooming combined with stalking, she has him go into her van, into a car, and she forces herself onto him. Then he goes back to the party he was at, and his friends notice that he's like noticeably different. You know, he's like more reserved. He's acting strange until eventually the information comes out and she gets arrested. Now, my opinion, slammer, prison time. She's a danger to other children. She didn't just sext him. She forced herself on him and groomed him. She is a danger. She should not only not be a teacher, but she has broken the social contract. She needs to serve time in prison and get whatever amount of mental health care that is necessary to make her not want to diddle the children, or to really stop herself from diddling children, right? That's my opinion. Slammer, right? I held this position for anybody who engages in this type of behavior, right? So now, the responses to this tweet have been some of the most vile, disgusting nonsense I've seen on the platform, man. Oh my goodness, man. It is really bad. I wonder if it's gone now. I wonder if it's gone because people, like smarter people, have started to like respond to this. One sec. Like right here. Nice. Like, ah, wow, fantastic. Wow. Doesn't look like he suffered. This is what lunch ladies look like nowadays. The cafeteria lady, I've got something you can eat. The 14-year-old.
I'ma eat it. Ah!
And like,
I'ma eat it. Ah!
Like all of this, like not like half of them are like people obviously condemning it for good reason, or half of the replies are people like complimenting it, and the other half of the replies are people like calling out the people who complimented it. So here's my position. Not only should she be pushed into slammer, but every single person who thinks this is cool or trendy, they should be put in the slammer as well, because they're the type of people who would see a kid get touched and be like, I'm gonna let that happen. Yeah, touch him. Touch this minor. Permanently scar him. I don't know what it is, but some people seem to be under the impression that if a girl does it, if a woman does it to a young boy, that's okay. The boy wants it. He was asking for it. He's just lucky, nice, good for him. That's totally not scarring as well. That's totally not an adult taking advantage of a young child. That's none of that. No, that's perfectly fine. But if it's the other way around, if it's a girl, if it's a older man and it's a young girl, obviously everybody's going to, for good reason, say, this is terrible, this is awful, this shouldn't happen, this person is a terrible, horrific molester, and he should go in prison forever and be not only should he go in prison, but he should be buried into the prison, and I hope the other prisoners beat him to death, and I hope the other prisoners take a broom handle and stick it up there. And you hear, you know how people are with child molesters and pedophiles. They'll think up any number of crazy torture fantasies of like putting their balls in boiling acid or chicken, or like a fryer or something. But when it's a woman touching a young boy, all of a sudden it's nice, they wanted it, and it's okay, don't worry about it. And you want to know what really grinds my gears about this is many of the accounts that I've seen calling drag queen story hour like grooming events are the same ones I see in these replies saying that this is nice, this is cool, this is great. Just because you find this woman attractive, or just because it's a woman and a young boy, does not make it okay. It can still scar the child. It can still give the child mental health issues that they'll have to deal with for the rest of their life. It can have a extremely negative impact on their life. And it is still statutory rape. We should not be complimenting people or praising people or saying how much it is cool for this woman to rape a child. It is still rape. It is still horrible. And if you think otherwise, I would look the other way if they took you off to the gulag, if I'm being completely honest with you, because I don't think you can engage in society like a civilized human being. That's all I have to say about the story. Oh my God, man. This pissed me off going through those replies, man. I was molding so hard. I have this like tick I do where when I get super excited, I start like hitting my hand with my finger, or I start hitting the side of my leg. I don't know if it's like an autism thing. I don't know if I have autism. I've never got it looked at. I think when I was very young, got it looked at and they didn't find anything, but I have that tick. I know when I get really excited, I do that. And man, I was basically like slamming my fist on my leg, like angry, man. I was pissed reading these replies because I saw a lot of other stories break about stuff like this, and all the replies have been, in my experience, in those instances recently, it was like, oh, that's terrible, throw in prison. Oh, that's terrible, it's awful. Men have feelings too. Men can be touched that way. Men can be hurt that way. But then all of a sudden, man, this story breaks and they find the woman attractive, and therefore it's no longer the problem. You know, if this woman was ugly, they would be saying she should go to prison, right? And it feels like it's like 99% based upon the fact that the people who are responding to this tweet personally find her attractive. You know how bad that is? That a lot of people would let like rapists get away with crime as long as you personally find them attractive. That's not good, man. I remember hearing the word pretty privilege like a few years ago, not really getting it. I think it finally just clicked for me for the first time. Like, oh my God, man. Can we just get like Ryan Gosling to like rob a bank and walk away? Nobody stops him. Ah, my goodness.